Welcome back to Ghost Pirate Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today we do another deep dive into Tubi. And let's get to the list.
And then step into the turn.
Found is a 2012 horror movie, written and directed by Scott Shermer and based on the Todd Rigney novel of the same name. It stars Gavin Brown, Ethan Philbeck, and Phyllis Monroe. A bullied and misunderstood boy must grapple with the knowledge that his older brother is a serial killer.
My brother keeps a human head in his closet. At one point, it had thoughts and feelings, and it kissed somebody it loved. Now it's just a bloody head and a bowling ball bag. Okay, so a big warning before I get into this. This movie is gonna touch a lot of hot buttons for a lot of people. There's everything from racial slurs and uncomfortable dialogue to absolutely atrocious gore, stuff that'll make your skin crawl. So if you are faint of heart or not someone that really wants to watch something that has things like that and everything in between, then you might want to avoid this one. But I think this movie is fantastic. It is another one of those movies that I talk about all the time when it comes to indie horror that are so well done, yet no one knows of them. And this is another one that I literally just stumbled across. I have never heard anyone mention it to me. I'm sure one of you guys have, but you know, don't got the greatest memory always, but I try to put down all the ones you guys mentioned, but of course, I'm sure I miss some from time to time. But as far as I know, I don't remember ever hearing about this movie. I just was skimming through Tubi and stumbled across it. But it is so well acted. The special effects are fantastic. The directing and pacing and overall dialogue is well done. This is definitely leaning more into a dramatic horror than it is like a more exciting type of horror. It's not a slow burn, but it's very much a drama with lots of dialogue that definitely deals with some really disturbing things. And every time I thought this movie was done surprising me and like pushing the boundaries even further, it would one-up itself. Because basically everything in this movie up until the final shot really goes for it. So if you're not offended or upset easily and definitely not faint of heart, then I highly recommend it.
And then step into the turn.
The Harbinger is a 2022 supernatural horror movie. Directed by Andy Minton, it stars Gabby Beans, Emily Davis, and Raymond Anthony Thomas. Plagued by horrific nightmares, a woman enters a hellish dreamscape to confront her fears.
It's like any dream. I can move around, but something else is making my choices. Then I get the bad feeling that he's there.
So I apologize for my voice. I've been battling this little bit of a cold the last week or so, and it's still coming and going, so bear with me. So I did do a full review of this movie, so definitely go check that out on the channel. But I think this movie is fantastic. It's so well performed, it's creepy and moody and uncomfortable, and it goes into a lot of really interesting directions. And it's another one of those movies that really shows what you could do with the whole idea of the pandemic. And instead of being gimmicky with it, it leaned into it. It leaned into the fears of it. It really brought out those elements, the things that a lot of us dealt with during that time. And this movie gets really creepy at times, with some really fantastic imagery, especially considering this is another one of those really small, independent production horror movies. But it does so much with what it's working with. I think this is a real hidden gem and one to definitely add to your list.
And then step into the turn.
The Autopsy of Jane Doe is a 2016 supernatural horror movie. Directed by Andre Overdahl, it stars Emil Hirsch, Brian Cox, and Owen Kelly. The story's about father and son coroners who experience supernatural phenomena while examining the body of an unidentified woman.
Subject is in her mid to late 20s. Hair brown.
Flash flood warning now.
Eyes Gray?
This is a great movie. It doesn't get much better than this when you're talking about spooky ghost story type of movies. If I were to make a list of my top 10 supernatural ghost story movies, this would definitely be on it. Because it's creepy and mysterious and absolutely skin crawling. And it really gets disturbing right away with some skin crawling autopsy scenes. Like, they don't shy away from showing them cut into this body, and the things they find inside are not what you would expect. But I really love the mystery element to this movie. It's what really separates it from other ghost stories, because it just takes you down this awesome rabbit hole of trying to figure out the whole picture. So if you're looking for an eerie, uncomfortable, moody ghost story, this is a great pick.
And then step into the turd.
Quiet! I'll let you get away with that! Where is she?
Dread is a 2009 British horror movie, written and directed by Anthony de Blasi and based on a short story of the same name by Clive Barker. It stars Jackson Rathbone, Sean Evans, and Hannah Steen. A charismatic but unstable college student convinces a misfit classmate to help him with his thesis project, a study into people's biggest fears.
Sarah! Get out of the house!
This is such an interesting movie, and it's another one that goes way farther, goes way harder with the subject matter than you would ever expect it to go. There's definitely some elements about it that do feel a bit dated, the fashion, just some of the like special effects stuff, but nothing too major. But it has a little bit of that Saw kind of vibe, so you can tell it was very much inspired by that era of horror. But it's definitely its own movie and pretty unique. For the most part, this young cast does a great job of really making you feel like this is a group of friends. And it really takes that idea of people's biggest fears and really runs with it. There's some very interesting scenes where they go into that, and just the way they play it out is very, very interesting. But my favorite part of this movie is just how savage they go. It gets gory, uncomfortable, just absolutely brutal, especially in the final act. I had a great time with this, and think you will as well, so definitely check it out.
And then step into the turd.
We will live for eternity.
Dagon is a 2001 Spanish sci-fi horror movie, directed by Stuart Gordon and loosely based on the H.P. Lovecraft 1919 short story of the same name. It stars Ezra Godin, Raquel Morano, and Macarena Gomez. A boating accident runs a young man and woman ashore a decrepit Spanish fishing town, which they discover is in the grips of an ancient sea god. This is such a fun movie. It had been a while since I watched it, and last night I decided to pop it on. Even though I knew the movie and could easily talk about it, I was like, it just feels like something I'm in the mood for. Something kind of light, creepy, mysterious, and fun. And it's just as good as I remembered. It's so much fun. Just the visuals are fantastic. It's beautifully shot, and the design of the different creatures and the mood and the atmosphere, it's just wonderfully designed and put together. And yeah, it doesn't have the greatest acting at times, and the 2001 CGI here and there and things like that are not the best. But this is the kind of movie that if you just go into it and don't pick it apart, just go in there to have fun, a popcorn, mysterious horror sci-fi movie, then I think you'll definitely have fun with it. So most definitely put this one on your list.
And then step into the turd.
Too close.
You think?
Doomsday is a 2008 British sci-fi action thriller. Written and directed by Neil Marshall, it stars Rona Mitra, Malcolm McDowell, and Bob Hoskins. The film takes place in the future in Scotland, which has been quarantined because of a deadly virus. When the virus is found in London, political leaders sent a team to Scotland to find a possible cure.
Once you're over that wall, there's no system, no rules,
no backup.
This is a super fun, apocalyptic, Mad Max type of future movie. It's full of action and adventure, and in a lot of ways, it basically is Escape from New York. But it goes pretty hard, especially with the gore. There's some very brutal scenes, and it's just a lot of fun. It's not a movie that's super deep, doesn't have a ton of story. It's a real simple kind of premise, and it does get a little campy and hokey at times, but it's a fun movie. It definitely is one that's just there to have a good time with. So this is another one that if you're looking for a bloody good time, definitely check it out.
And then step into the turn.
Besides prayer, there are other things which can be done.
The Golem is a 2018 Israeli period supernatural horror movie. Directed by Dorian and Yoav Paz and stars Hani and Brenny Furstenberg and Ishay Golan. During an outbreak of a deadly plague, a mystical woman must save her tight-knit Jewish community from foreign invaders. But the entity that she conjures endangers them all.
What have you done? I've created a golem. It is a heartless monster, and we must take it back from whence it came before it is too late.
This is a somber, dramatic, well-written horror movie with fantastic performances from this entire cast. This is one of those movies that just feels a little more drama than anything, but it definitely gets horror and gets gory and bloody and brutal as it goes. And they do a masterful job of really making it feel like a time capsule. This feels like you go back in time to that period. Everything from the wardrobe to the sets, it just feels very authentic. But it gets disturbing and uncomfortable in so many different ways and has a real grit to it. This movie just feels dirty and gritty and just in your face. It feels grimy and authentic and just lived in. I think it's a captivating, entertaining watch and one definitely worth checking out.
And then step into the turn.
It's gonna get in here! It's gonna kill us!
Splinter is a 2008 body horror movie. Directed by Toby Wilkins, it stars Shea Wingham, Paulo Constanzo, and Jill Wagner. Trapped in an isolated gas station by a vicious parasite that transforms its still living victims into deadly hosts, a young couple and an escaped convict must find a way to work together to survive.
You okay?
Don't touch it!
This is such a fun, old-fashioned creature feature, but it's very modern, doesn't feel like a throwback, but it just has that thing that all those fun creature features have, where the protagonist is just put in this situation without having any idea of what's going on and just has to find a way to survive. This has shades of movies like The Thing and Alien. I mean, I'm not saying it's as good as those movies, but it has a lot of the charm and things that are fun about those. It has a small cast that are all put into this gas station, so the setup doesn't feel like there'd be much to it. Not enough for a whole movie, but trust me, this movie is just heart-pounding thrill ride from moment one. And it gets gory with plenty of body horror and uncomfortable weirdness. This movie is a real blast, and if you have yet to see it, definitely get on it and check it out.
And then step into the turn.
Tori!
You're safe now. You can...
Brightburn is a 2019 superhero horror movie, directed by David Yurvosky and written by Brian and Mark Gunn. It was produced by James Gunn and stars Elizabeth Banks, David Denneman, and Jackson A. Dunn. The plot follows a young boy of extraterrestrial origins who realizes he has superpowers and uses them with dark intentions.
Maybe there is something wrong with Brandon.
Turn against our son.
He's not my son.
So I remember when this movie first came out, and a lot of us were just really excited to see what this would be like what it would look like to have a superhero like a Superman, but that was evil and would do horrible, horrible things. And I think The Boys had just dropped, but I had yet to see it, so there was really no way of knowing what that would look like. So I really went into this excited, and especially with James Gunn's name and his brothers attached to it. And I, for one, absolutely loved this movie, but it's baffled me ever since how many people talk shit about this movie, and I don't get it, because I don't know what more that I would possibly want from this setup. And I've always wished that they would make a sequel to this because I think it's just badass, and it would be so cool to see this bigger scope, this bigger world on what this boy would be like or what he would do on more of a global scale, because at the end of this movie, you know, there's mayhem. But this movie gets gory and just wild and really takes and pushes that idea as far as it can, especially with the limited resources that they had. There are just so many scenes that I think are just absolutely badass. And if it's been a while since you've seen it, you might want to revisit it because I think it really still holds up and your opinions on it might be changed just a little. Either way, I think this is a great little gem and definitely worth watching.
And then step into the turn.
Don't Breathe is a 2016 horror thriller, directed by Fede Alvarez and produced by Sam Raimi. It stars Jane Levy, Dylan Minnette, and Stephen Lang. The story focuses on three friends who get trapped inside of a blind man's house while breaking into it.
I got our ticket out of here. Rumor is this guy is sitting on at least $300K. Boom! That's our guy.
Wait, is he blind?
Messed up to rob a blind guy, isn't it?
Just because he's blind don't mean he's insane, bro.
This is such a thrilling, intense movie that very much keeps you on the edge of your seat. And it really goes into some very surprising directions. Because this is not any ordinary blind man. He is an absolute savage badass. And as much as there were mixed reviews on the sequel, I personally thought it was alright. I mean, I didn't think it was a game changer, but I thought it was pretty cool. This one was the total opposite, because everybody, including me, just absolutely loved this movie. It's so well performed, especially by Stephen Lang. He just is so savage and absolutely makes your skin crawl. And in case you haven't seen it, I don't want to give anything away, but the ending of this movie is absolutely wild. So if it's been a while, or if you've never seen this, I think it's a perfect pick for your Saturday night. So grab your popcorn and your candy and enjoy! Alright guys, that's gonna do it for me today. Thank you so much for watching this. If you enjoyed this, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and ding that little bell, because that's the best way to keep track of this channel and when I post videos like this, and I post videos like this every single week. And also, I would like to give a huge, massive, enormous thank you to the Ghost Pirate crew, to you guys over on Patreon, and to the channel members over here. You guys all mean so much to me. You truly are the life's blood of this channel. And if you would like to find out how you can support this channel and become a member over on Patreon, there's a link down in the description. Or if you'd like to become a channel member over here, there's a little button right down there that says join, but you got to be on a PC to see it. For whatever reason, you can't join through a phone anymore. Hopefully they'll bring back that little button, but it just mysteriously disappeared one day. But like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button. And remember guys, horror can be fun. If you enjoyed this, click right here to see my 10 all-time best werewolf movies. And I'll see you guys next time.